movie theaters throughout the country are amping up security when they're showing the movie Straight Outta Compton, which is interesting because they don't typically do this for any other movie, but they felt the need to do it for this particular movie. Now, last week, the LAPD actually announced that it was working with theater owners to increase policing at certain theaters screening the film about controversial rap band N.W.A. The Universal Studios said that it would help reimburse theaters for the cost of extra security. Okay, so I want you guys to understand something. It's the movie theaters themselves that are screening the movie that want the extra security. And Universal Pictures, of course, wants to help them out because they don't want to run into any problems with the theaters not wanting to show the movie. So I don't blame Universal for that, but I definitely blame the movie theaters because if you think about all of the different theater shootings that happened, I mean, it happened at Trainwreck, which doesn't really have a lot of black people in it, just keeping it real.
It happened at Batman.
Right.
And he is the Dark Knight.
He is the Dark Knight.
Okay. And you know why? Because mass shootings are often done by white folks, right? Now, it doesn't mean white folks, there's something about them that is inherent or genetic, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that way in this country, that it's disproportionately white people. But people are unfazed by facts. Yeah. They're like, no, I don't care how many movie shootings happen in white movie theaters by white people. There's a black movie coming out about rappers. We're going to go ahead and police that, make sure everything's okay.
And some people might make the argument that, hey, you know, N.W.A, there was a lot of gang violence. I mean, it only makes sense. But all these other movies that are blockbuster hits usually have either a lot of sex or a lot of violence. So you can't play the violence card as an excuse for why this is happening.
It's not like Batman didn't have violence in it. I mean, Bane had a gang, right? And they were going to blow up all of Gotham.
Here's the thing. Your movie's not going to do well unless there's some violence in it, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of movies are violent. And Kevin Powell went on CNN. He's a civil rights activist, and he kind of talked about this issue a little bit. He had a lot of criticism for the movie, but he also talked about, you know, the security that's being increased for these screenings, and I think he made a lot of good points. Let's take a quick look at what he had to say.
I think it's really funny because in the early 1990s, we saw the same thing with Boys in the Hood, with Juice, with other films. And so, you know, you know what, there were shootings at the Batman screenings that we know about what happened in Colorado. There was shooting at the Trainwreck screening. And so we cannot racially profile movies either. We don't want to racially profile people. We should not racially profile films. Yesterday when I saw Straight Outta Compton, black, white, Latino, Asian, multiple generations of people, they're all very peacefully seeing the film.
So now let me give the other side a little bit. He refers to the early 1990s, and I was around back then, and sometimes there would be violence in movies, not necessarily even quote-unquote black movies, but movies in inner cities. So I lived in Philadelphia at the time I was going to school there, and the movies where you'd have the most trouble, honestly, were Steven Seagal movies. Everybody get amped up, okay, and then the violence would break out, and the cops would have to come. Yeah. So that happened fairly regularly. So now if you were reacting to that pattern, I would understand that more, but that hasn't happened in a long, long time. So there is no current pattern of that happening. And I have to be honest with you guys, before any of this story broke, I knew this was going to happen because I was at a diner and there was a cop talking to the owner of the diner. Oh, no. And they were talking about how they're going to increase security for Straight Outta Compton. And I didn't think twice about it. So you see, that's what I'm talking about. It's in the back of all of our heads. Like, I didn't think like, hey, wait, why are they doing it for Straight Outta Compton? And again, don't get me wrong. I get it. It's not Batman. It's real life. It's based on a story that's in real life. And those guys were mad about how the police treated them. Now we have, the black community again mad at how the police are treating them. I understand that, but violence hasn't broken out in any movie theater, right? So it's different. But even me, sitting there, I didn't think twice like, oh, they shouldn't do that. I thought, yeah, I guess so.
I have to be honest, 100% honest about this story and my feelings about it. I actually would prefer if they beefed up security for every movie, considering the shootings that happened. And honestly, after the latest shooting that happened, I have no interest in going to movie theaters. I would much rather go home and relax and watch Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is, because I don't want to put myself in that position. I feel like it's happened enough times that it's a huge risk for me to go to a movie theater. And that's sick. It's sick that people who do these mass shootings have won in that sense.
Yeah, and that's the society we live in, unfortunately. I mean, but where are you going to hide?
Yeah.
Right? My parents are concerned about going back to Turkey because Turkey's had some political violence. Are you kidding me? in America, we have daily mass shootings. So we have a lot more violence here. You're more likely to get shot up in a movie theater, a mall, a church in America because everybody's got guns. Yeah. So, I mean, we can't hide our old lives. You might want to actually do something about it that actually works instead of just sending some cops to a movie theater. Mm-hmm. You might want to, regulate the guns, but of course that makes people furious. So we can't have it, and we're going to have all these shootings. That's really the core of the problem.
Absolutely. You guys, to be fair, maybe they're looking out for some of these shooters that do mass shootings that are potentially racist, and they want to protect black people that are in a lot of these theaters to make sure they don't get shot up.
You're right, Cenk.
Yeah.
JR.
Yeah, that's a great point. And when I was at the diner and the cop was talking about it, that's what he was saying. He's like, I can't wait to protect the black community. And that was definitely the framing of that conversation. And he's like, look, man, I don't want any kind of racist shootings over there. Yeah. So I'm going to go over there and lock that shit down, okay?